Hey everyone, welcome to Recombinant Teaching. I'm your host, Justin Schaefer, and on this show, I'm holding STEM Education Office Hours where I'll unpack your questions on STEM pedagogy, student success, academic careers, and everything in between. I've taught about 10,000 students in my 13 career, and just like you, I've spent countless hours in the trenches working with students, helping them learn how to succeed in college and beyond. Through hosting this show, I hope that we can learn from each other, solve some problems, share some tips and advice, and ultimately improve STEM education together. If you have a question you'd like me to tackle, check out my website or the show notes and click the Submit a Question link. Whether you want to write in, send an audio clip, or join me live, I'd love to have you be a part of the show. With that, let's go to the first question. All right, well, let's get going today. So we have our first international question on the show, so I'm super excited to share this with you. And our question today comes to us from Portugal, and that comes from specifically from João Paulo Brito, who is at the Sports Science School of Rio Maior in Santarém, Portugal. And João has a really cool question, and it's really broad, so I'm going to try to take this how I can. But his question says, how can I use the STEM education approach in a second-year physiology course for a bachelor's degree in sports training? So that's a really cool question, João. I'm not exactly sure the way to take it, so I'm going to take it the way that I think might work best for you and kind of give you a big idea of what this whole high-structure course design model is about and how you might be able to implement that with your physiology students in Portugal. So when you say the STEM education approach, that's pretty broad, right? So we can really take that, again, a lot of different ways. I'm going to take that with my expertise with high structure, and hopefully you'll agree this might be a good way to structure your course. So what is this high structure course design model, which is based on evidence in STEM education in the literature, and again, can be applied in your case here, João. So high structure, not my idea. I always like to start off with that, right? Yes, I wrote a book about it, but I really was inspired from the work of Mary Pat Wenderoth and Scott Freeman, both retired professors at the University of Washington, Seattle in biology. And they started this about 20 years ago in 2005 or so, where they started looking at how do we add structure to our introductory biology courses? How do we add scaffolding? How do we add supports to our courses? And if we do that, does it benefit our students' learning? Turns out it does, and it really worked well for them because they're teaching these monster 400, 500, 600 person introductory biology courses. And so giving students supports before class, during class, and after class can lead to gains, can lead to students feeling more connected, feeling more belonging, making better improvements on exams, lower failure rates, more engagement, all these great things. And it all comes from this structure idea. All right, so let me tell you a little bit more about that. But first, it starts with the idea of backward design. So backward design, even older than the high structure idea, it applies to anything whatsoever. And the whole point of backward design is we start with our learning objectives first. What do we want our students to be able to do? Start with those, figure out what those are, and then you design your assessments. So how are you going to know whether your students can actually achieve those objectives or not, right? So whether that is exam, a project, a portfolio, whatever it might be, make sure you can actually measure whether or not your students can achieve those objectives. And then last, you design your activities. And activities is basically everything else. So that's going to be your homework, your in-class activities and questions, what you're lecturing about. If you have any readings or videos for students to watch, it could also include the actual schedule of topics, the book you're using, the content. So all that comes to last. And you do all that last because you're then able to help design that so that you can give students practice so they can do well on the assessments, which measures whether or not they can achieve the learning objectives. And so you can apply this backward design model to anything, any type of course, any level, kindergarten, 12th grade, college, university, graduate school, anything. Now, with high structure, though, we take this model and just kind of bucket it or chunk it into specifically what happens before class, during class, and after class. So in your case, João, you want to think about what do you want your students to come to class with for exercise physiology? What do you want to do with them during class time? And then what do you want them to do after class? Okay. And so before class, typically there's some kind of content acquisition. Reading textbooks, reading journal articles, watching videos, whatever it might be, and then some kind of pre-class assessment. Typically, lots of attempts, low stakes, just a few percentage points of the grade, if anything, but you got to usually do something, right? You usually got to give them some points. You give your students some kind of credit to entice them, a little bit of reward, a little bit of carrot, if you will, to get to do the reading and the pre-class work. But you give them usually a lot of attempts because you want students to know the right answers, you want them to have this strong foundation that you can come to class with. So once students have done the pre-class work and done the reading or videos and done a pre-class quiz online, usually make it automatically graded, right? So it's easy on you. And then during class, you're going to hit the ground running. Students have a foundational knowledge. In exercise phys, maybe it's a bunch of definitions about ventilation, maybe a little bit of understanding the concepts of how breathing works and how the lungs work with the diaphragm and the integration with the nervous system. And then in class, you can start applying that, right? Okay, so now you have the basics, everyone. Let's take it up a level. And we can start applying these concepts, doing some active learning, getting students engaged, doing individual active learning, group active learning, getting students working together on data analysis, problem solving, using clickers if you're using technology, all sorts of stuff, right? Getting students engaged is the point. Are you going to talk during class? Yeah, you are, of course. You're going to lecture in class, but you're going to do it in moderation, right? You're not going to lecture the whole time. You're going to lecture, do activities, lecture activities, back and forth, back and forth. That's what I like to do. All right. And then after class, you're going to have students review. Typically in STEM classes, we do weekly homework assignments. These can be online, again, automatically graded. They can be written on paper that you collect and grade yourself or have a TA help with, whatever you want to do. But it's going to help students review kind of on a weekly basis. And then you also have summative assessment on kind of a high frequency. So we don't want to have what I had in college. So when I was in college at Penn State, I remember taking a cell biology class. We used the Albert's book, that big, nice, thick silver one, Bruce Albert's book, Biology of the Cell. And we had one midterm, one final. Didn't go well for me. All right. So we want to try to avoid that and instead maybe do monthly exams, maybe biweekly quizzes or even weekly quizzes. I've adopted a model in some of my classes where I call quizams, right? I know it's dumb, but more than a quiz, less than an exam. So it's a quizam about like every 3 weeks or so. And so you can do things like that, but more frequent assessment. And the literature on that's pretty strong. The more often you assess your students, the better they do. They actually like it more too. There's literature showing better evaluations if you do frequent assessment, as opposed to, again, that one midterm, one final model. All right. And then there's one other word here to talk about with high structure that's really important. That's alignment. And alignment's such an important word. It's why I made a card deck called alignment. And so with alignment, it's important two ways here. One, you want to build everything and tie everything back to your learning objectives. So you think about, what am I talking about in class? What are the activities I'm designing? What are the exam questions about? If they don't tie directly to a learning objective, you need to cut that out and get it out of your class. And this helps with content coverage too. I'm sure as you're out in an exercise phys class, you're going to have a lot of content you need to get through. But ask yourself, why am I covering all this, right? Is it all really important? If it doesn't tie to a learning objective, get rid of it. It's going to help you slim down some content, give you a little bit more time to do active learning, some more engaging things in class. Second thing with alignment is building. So what happens during class should build on before class. What happens after class should build on during class, build on before class. You can't see this, but I'm doing like a staircase motion with my hand right now. So we're building one step after the other. This is really important too, because we want to hold students accountable for what happens before class, build on it, build on it, build on it. If all you do during class is repeat what happens before class, well, guess what? Students probably won't do the pre-class work. So you got to build on it and apply it and use it in novel ways. Okay, so that's kind of the high structure model in a nutshell. If you really want to dive deep in it, there's a ton of great resources out there, my book and websites and other places too. There's a lot of stuff. Just search for it. You'll find a lot of literature on it too. But I think this could work well for you, João. So you want to think about, again, how do your exercise phys students doing currently? What kind of structure's already in place? Where are the gaps? Do they do work outside of class? Are they supported in that work? Do you tie the in-class time into what they're doing outside of class directly? And if you can answer some of those questions, that will help you maybe apply this high structure model. Now, it might sound like a lot of work, which it can be, but the cool thing is you can just do pieces at a time. You don't have to do the whole thing at once. You can add a little bit at a time and see gains. Also, templates help too. So check out my website. I'll put a link in the notes. I have a bunch of free materials to help you with lesson planning, with reading guides for before class, all these things, and that will help give you a leg up too. All right. Well, I hope that helped answer your questions, João, about how you can use STEM education approaches in your exercise physiology course. If you were thinking you wanted a different type of answer, let me know. Write me a note. I would be happy to record another episode or meet with you another time too. All right. And everyone else too. Let me know what you thought of this. Let me know if you liked it. What do you want to hear more about? And that's it for this episode of Recombinant Teaching. And if you want to be a part of the show too, just like I answered João's question, please check the show notes for the link on how to submit a question. You can submit a written question, an audio clip, or be a live guest too. And then check out my website too if you'd like to learn how I can work with you, your department, or your institution to improve STEM education. Thanks for listening and happy teaching.